Okay, welcome everyone to the deep dive. Today we're taking a look through a collection of recent articles. These are from CoinMarketCap contributors. It gives us, a snapshot of what's happening across the crypto world today, June 6th, 2025.
Yeah, and it's a really varied bunch of sources this time. It really shows how many different things are moving like all at once in this space. You've
Yeah,
got big finance stuff, new tech partnerships, even how global events are making waves.
absolutely. And I guess the main headline grabbing story across these sources, if you had to pick one out, it seems to be the news about Gemini. One article really goes into their confidential S1 submission. Looks like they're eyeing a potential US IPO.
That's definitely a big move, yeah, for a major crypto exchange like them. Filing a confidential S1, well, it's a pretty standard first step if you want to go public in the US, but it definitely signals they're serious about it.
It really does. But like you said, these sources, they show it's far from the only thing going on. We've got pieces talking about other companies that just went public, some interesting new tech collaborations, specific token movements, driven by charts or just launch excitement,
Yeah.
how external political stuff is apparently hitting the markets, and even like a fundamental Bitcoin network milestone in there too.
Yeah, it's a landscape where things develop and react really fast. So our goal here is to dive into these specific pieces from this source stack, try and understand what each one is telling us, and maybe see what kind of picture emerges about, the state of play right now.
Okay, sounds good. Let's unpack it.
Yeah.
So starting with that big corporate news, then Gemini filing that confidential S1 for US IPO. What do you make of a player like Gemini taking this formal step, going towards a public listing?
Well, what's interesting, I think, is that it shows this ongoing push, right? Established crypto companies wanting validation, wanting access to capital from, the traditional financial markets. A confidential S1 means, okay, the specifics aren't public just yet, but the filing itself, which the SEC requires, means they have to lay out tons of detail. Operations, risks, financials. It's a really thorough process.
Right. So even if we don't have all of the details from this source, the filing itself is the news. It's a concrete sign they're going down that regulatory path, potentially listing on the U.S. exchange. That feels like a pretty significant moment for the whole sector, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And interestingly, these sources also mention another company in that kind of crypto adjacent space that has just gone public, Circle. The
Yeah.
article notes their stock, CRCL, had this incredible surge, over 168% on its first day. Sounds amazing initially, like a home run.
Whoa, 168% on day one. Yeah, that's the kind of number that gets attention. But okay, here's where it gets really interesting, according to these sources. One of them includes an analyst who, even with that massive jump, is quoted saying not to buy the stock.
Hmm. And that raises a really important question that the source points out, like what causes such a huge initial pop? And then on the flip side, what makes a professional analyst say, hold on, maybe don't buy this right now? Is that debut jump just, market hype? Or does the analyst see some fundamental risks, maybe valuation concerns that aren't obvious in all that initial trading excitement? The contrast is pretty stark. It really shows the different ways people look at these market events.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a good reminder that these huge debuts, they aren't always seen as clear long-term wins by everyone. Okay, so moving away from the kind of traditional finance meets crypto angle for a sec, these sources also show innovation happening, like deep within the tech itself. There's a piece talking about legendary humanity partnering up with HASHKEY Group's Aeon, apparently to advance AI-driven digital fashion.
Right. And what's fascinating there is how they're combining these like really cutting edge fields, AI and digital fashion, and potentially building it on blockchain infrastructure, which, the HashKey group mentioned suggests. This source, dated June 5th, it points to this rapid exploration of genuinely new uses for DLT, things beyond just finance. It sounds like it's about creating digital items, digital assets with maybe new levels of realism or interaction, maybe using AI for the design side or personalization.
Huh. It really is like a whole new creative area opening up, powered by this underlying tech. Now, these sources also show how sensitive markets can be, including crypto-related ones, sensitive to things that seem, totally unrelated on the surface. One article mentions a political event specifically. It talks about an altercation between President Donald Trump and Tesla CEO Elon Musk. And it reportedly caused some political unrest and sent markets into what the source calls a bloodbath on Thursday evening.
Yeah, this source suggests that even like very public clashes between influential people can spark pretty significant market volatility. The article notes White House aides apparently asked Trump to kind of tone it down, which suggests they saw the impact of the exchange. We're, of course, just reporting what the source claims happened and the market reaction it describes, keeping our focus just on the market dynamics mentioned there, but it does highlight how maybe interconnected global sentiment is.
Understood. Yeah, it shows that ripple effect, according to this source anyway, from a political spat to market results. Okay, shifting gears again. These sources also capture some really specific movements within individual tokens. There's a note about Compound, COMP, breaking through some key resistance levels.
Yes, the source highlights some technical analysis there. It indicates COMP moved pretty decisively above a trend line it had been stuck under for months. Specifically notes a 14.7% rise in just 24 hours leading up to the Sol state, and breaking that significant resistance. From a technical viewpoint in the source, it suggests a potential shift in momentum, maybe looking towards a target around $61.
A nearly 15% jump, yeah, that's definitely eye-catching. And like you say, according to that analysis, potentially a sign of technical strength. And speaking of token buzz, there's also coverage of a new token making waves, Skate.
And what's particularly notable about Skate, mentioned in these sources, is the market reaction before any major trading even started. So, Binance officially announced they were listing Skate. It's described as a new altcoin, powers some multi-VM blockchain infrastructure, and the source reports its price jumped, get this, 33% before it actually launched on Binance Alpha and Binance Futures.
Wow, 33%.
Yeah.
Just on the news of the listing, before anyone could really trade it widely. That's a pretty powerful demonstration of the listing effect, isn't it? Especially on big platforms like Binance. Just the anticipation driving value based on, expected access and liquidity.
It really is. It definitely underscores the market's interest in new infrastructure projects and the immediate cloud exchange endorsements can have. And then finally, kind of tucked away in this stack, is a quieter but pretty significant infrastructure milestone for Bitcoin itself.
Ah, yes, the network just kept chugging along. Hit block 900,000.
Exactly. I mean, it's a number, it might seem a bit abstract, but reaching block 900,000, it's just a fundamental step in Bitcoin's very predictable issuance schedule. The network just keeps operating. The source from Bitcoin Magazine gives a little snapshot of that specific block. Noted it had like 1,562 transactions and a pretty standard average fee rate, about 3 Satoshis per virtual byte.
So yeah, not a moment marked by crazy high fees or network jams or anything. Just a quiet confirmation that the underlying system, the decentralized ledger, it just keeps processing transactions reliably, block after block, moving steadily closer to the next halving and eventually that 21 million coin limit. It's kind of a grounding fact amidst all the daily market noise, right?
It really is. It serves as this crucial reminder of the foundational tech just operating underneath all the rapid developments and market swings we've been discussing.
And I think that brings us pretty much to the end of this deep dive, looking through this specific set of sources today. We've covered the formal steps Gemini is taking towards that potential US IPO, the really interesting contrast between Circle's huge stock debut and then that analyst caution right after, the exploration of AI in digital fashion, how a political interaction reportedly sent ripples through markets, the specific technical action in COMP, the powerful listing effect we saw with Skate's pre-launch jump, and the steady march of the Bitcoin network hitting block 900,000.
Yeah, reflecting on this collection, you really see how the crypto world isn't just one single thing, is it? It's this really complex web of corporate strategy, financial markets, cutting-edge tech development, even these broader global events, all moving incredibly quickly.
Right. It is that constant interplay. You've got corporate finance bumping into tech innovation, global politics affecting market mood, and then the quiet, consistent progress of the underlying chains themselves. It's a lot to keep track of, but definitely fascinating to see it all kind of laid out in one go like this from these sources.
Absolutely. So maybe here's a final thought for you, the listener, to consider looking back at the sheer variety we just talked through. Think about how quickly news from these seemingly separate areas, finance, tech, even politics, can impact the crypto world. It's shown so clearly by these varied sources we looked at. Maybe ponder how these different developments, even though we discuss them one by one here, might actually be connected or influence each other in ways that shape the overall direction of this whole dynamic space.